Let's practice Plankasana, plank pose. Begin in Balasana, child's pose, with your knees spread out toward the outer edges of your mat and the bases of your big toes touching. Sink the heels back and down, and then sink the chest down, followed by the forehead resting on the floor. Balasana is a good pose to set up your foundation for Adho Mukha Svanasana and Plankasana. Inhale, come onto all fours. And you'll notice the knees are pointing out to the side, so draw the knees just beneath the hips and see that the feet are lined up straight behind the knees. From here, see that the hands are parallel. The pointer fingers are lined up with the outer edges of your mat, which turns the tops of the shoulders out slightly, externally rotates the shoulders slightly. From here, see that the shoulders are lowered away from the ears and that you're pressing into the floor to create a little space between the shoulder blades, like your back of your heart is lifting up toward the ceiling. Tuck your toes under. Draw the toes together, the knees together, and then lift the knees up off of the floor. And here, the shoulders may scoot forward slightly. You want to have the shoulders stacked over wrists or lined up evenly with the wrists. So some of us may need to step back slightly or forward slightly for that alignment. Draw the tailbone down toward the heels and lower the hips toward the earth without hanging down into the hips. We're using the strength of the abdominals to draw the navel up toward the sky, shoulders down away from the ears, inner thighs up toward the ceiling on the toes. See that the neck is also in line with the spine. And breathe here. Exhale, knees come to the floor and sink back into Balasana. Now, if that pose is too intense for you, and then you need to work up toward the strength of full Plankasana, you can simply keep your knees on the floor, toes pointing straight back, and then draw your hips toward the floor so that they're lined up from shoulders to hips to knees. And this is a great alternative for Plankasana, just with knees on the floor. Seeing that the wrists are beneath the shoulders, the bones are stacked, the shoulders are away from the ears, belly button pulled towards spine, tailbone moving toward the knees. And then exhale, Balasana, child's pose. Now there's often complaints of pain in the wrists, especially when first starting this pose and there's not a lot of wrist strength. So a way to begin building strength in the wrists is to simply lift the wrists off the floor, keeping the fingers grounded, just coming onto the knuckles, very gently building wrists, strength. And then you can also very slowly and softly, one at a time, place the top of the palm, top of the hand onto the floor. No strain here at all, so be very gentle. And then draw the tips of the fingertips together, point them up toward the ceiling, and then open the fingertips. Make a flower blossoming on your mat. Do this to both sides for a few breaths. Another option that you can use if you still find that the wrists are tender after this is just take the top edge of your mat and roll it down a few rolls. Then place the heel of the hands on the edge of the mat, and this lifts the wrists a little higher so that the angle of the wrist is lessened. And you can practice plank pose this way. This also applies for downward facing dog pose if you get wrist pain in that pose as well. Namaste.